We're done with that. We're done with the Bulls. I'm done with the Bulls. Let's move on, please, to something more positive. And for once, I could say it's the Cubs. And this makes me so happy because this is the year that they win the World Series. I'll tell you that right now. And this isn't even an exaggerated, claim. It's very, very realistic that this Cubs team can do it. And they're gonna make some noise, no doubt. And it's gonna be tough. Not saying it's gonna be a cakewalk, but with all the offseason acquisitions and Joe Madden at the helm, the smartness of Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer working, making deals, making the right signings always, except Edwin Jackson and maybe Ian Stewart. That was a bad trade, acquiring Ian Stewart for DJ LeMahieu and Tyler Colvin, which we don't have to get into because Ian Stewart's a jagoff. But at any rate, look at this roster right now and tell me where the holes are. Because if you're complaining about that there's no backup first baseman, then I think the Cubs are pretty set. Because Rizzo plays every day. Then you move over one position. You signed Ben Zobrist, in my opinion, a year too late. If they would have signed him last year, it would have been even better. But they had Castro, and they made that insane deal this winter for Adam Warren, which was another really good acquisition. A lot of baseball people are saying, yeah, Aaron Warren's a good pitcher. He's going to be good. You work with, he could turn into a solid starter. So that was a good move. You were gonna try and trade Castro no matter what. Even though as much as I hate to see him go, he was gonna go. So that, Castro's gone. You improve at second base defensively, and you have a veteran leader in Zobrist who just came off a World Series win. He knows how to win. Consistently positive WAR player, one of the top WAR players in all of baseball at second base. So you're secure there. Then you have a potential Gold Glove candidate at short with Addison Russell. Addison Russell can do everything with the glove, and yeah, maybe his bat's, progressing a little slower than we want him to be at the major league level right now, but it's okay. He's 22, 23. He's gonna adjust. He's 22 years old. He's gonna get better with the bat, but he's already talented enough to win a Gold Glove at short. And the beauty of it all is that Russell doesn't have to rely on his bat because he's got guys in the lineup that are going to pick him up, like Kyle Schwarber. And then you move over to third. Kris Bryant, Rookie of the Year, 99 RBIs last season, bunch of home runs, plus OPS. The only thing is his strikeout rate, and he's probably a little, I wouldn't say he's average at third. He's probably, he's passable at third. He made some solid defensive plays last year. He can definitely play the position, so I'm not worried about him there. And then you look at that infield alone by itself. And this isn't even mentioning Javier Baez, who can play every position on the field except pitcher and catcher. But I bet you he could do that if they asked him to do it. So in the infield, you're set. Eventually, you can even move Bryant to the outfield if you need him to. But that is a very, very solid infield, especially up the middle. And then you move on to the outfield. And there's a position out in left field now that's wide open for Jorge Soler and Kyle Schwarber platoon. I would say Kyle Schwarber gets 110, maybe 120 games of action. Maybe that's being a little, it might be a little optimistic, but he can do it. And his bat is valuable enough to keep him there in the lineup every day. Because you are just watch him hit. He can hit anything. He's got a bunch of power. He can hit in the opposite field. But, yeah, the defense is suspect. But, hey, I'll trade a bad defensive left fielder for a 30-homer guy in the lineup. So, slugs, 480. I'll do that any day. Any day. Yes, absolutely. And then you have Soler to complement. He can play left or right whenever you want. Dexter Fowler, who I will get into in a minute, where that acquisition was unbelievable. But anyway, you can have Soler and Hayward, fill in for any spot. Hayward can play center. Soler can play right. Schwarber can play left. They can mix and match with this lineup all day long. The versatility, the depth, it's something that I haven't seen a Cubs team have in my entire existence of following the team. It's so exciting right now. And that's not, It's just so exciting. But and then you have Dexter Fowler in center, and then Jason Hayward, who was their top WAR player. When I say there, it's the St. Louis Cardinals. It's the Cardinals' top WAR player last season, and now he's with the Cubs. So it's like, suck one, St. Louis. He's ours now. You're going to have to deal with him for 8 years unless he opts out at 2 specific points in his contract. Hey, have fun. He's the best right fielder in baseball. And he can hit. He can do everything. But he doesn't have, the thing is, he doesn't have power. And they gave him a lot of money. 184 mil. It's a lot of dough. But I would do it over and over again. Over and over again. Absolutely, he's worth it. He can steal a bag. He's fantastic defensively. He'll drive in runs. He'll get on base. He'll hit. He won't strike out a lot. Oh, it's fantastic. But anyway, let's get to this Dexter Fowler stuff because it was pretty insane. Like, I was moving on. I was like, oh, man, who's going to be the 5th outfielder, Matt Merton or Matt Caesar? But then all of a sudden, Chris Coghlan gets traded for Aaron Brooks, not on the Bulls, who's bleh, but another pitcher named Aaron Brooks, who's also bleh. Coghlan's gone, so I'm like, all right. I wonder if they're going to pick up another free agent outfielder, maybe Will Venable or somebody like, who's ever left. And all of a sudden, Dexter Fowler, after it was one day that the Orioles, it was reported that they agreed to a 3-year, $35 million contract. And then the next day, Fowler's a Cub, and I'm like, are you kidding me? He's walking on the spring training facility in Mesa with the Cubs in Sloan Park. Are you kidding me? How does this happen? This doesn't happen to the Cubs. Stuff like this happens against the Cubs. And all of a sudden, all of this magic, this Theo Epstein voodoo is going on. I can't, this is something you can't even write, So Fowler's here. They got rid of Coghlan. They signed Shane Victorino, who's probably going to make the roster, which means Matt Caesar, who is a pretty serviceable, player overall. He's a very good defender. He can't really hit much, but he would be a good bench option. He's probably going to have to be passed through waivers because he has no options left, so he can't be sent to AAA without going through waivers first, and I'm guessing a team will want him, maybe the White Sox. You never know. But with that being said, it sucks to lose Caesar, but hey, Shane Victorino's another guy. He's 2 years removed from his 2013 season where, World Series champs with the Red Sox. Had a really good season. So he just battled a lot of injuries the last 2 years, which was an unfortunate one, but in a limited role, yeah, Shane Victorino absolutely is a positive pickup for the Cubs, and it only adds to the depth of their roster. It's unbelievable what this team did, and we didn't even get into the pitching staff yet. Their depth in the rotation goes 8 deep. Look beyond John Lester, John Lackey, Jake Arrieta, by the way, Cy Young winner. Well, yeah, you know what you're going to get from them. And then you have Kyle Hendricks going into his second full season as a starter, who, in my opinion, outperformed expectations last year. Did very well. And then you have Jason Hamill, who's probably the biggest question mark in the entire rotation. But Jason Hamill's your 5th starter. I take that all day. But then you go beyond that. You got Adam Warren, Trevor Cahill, who re-signed with the Cubs, and I didn't think that would happen. I thought he was going to sign elsewhere, maybe get a shot to start, but came back to the Cubs, which is an awesome pickup. Clayton Richard, who had a resurgent year last year, was fantastic with the Cubs. And Travis Wood. Travis Wood's probably your best depth guy there who could be a reliable piece in the bullpen and fill in for a spot start whenever you ask him to. And that's just the rotation and half the bullpen. Plus other rotation spots. Like that is a recipe for a team to succeed right there. Depth, consistency, and production. And they can all produce. And they're all good. The only question I'm worried about is how Neil Ramirez is going to bounce back from that really terrible shoulder injury he had. Guys, it's tough when you throw 97, 98 with that kind of movement on your breaking stuff. After suffering that shoulder injury, it's tough to come back from. But I'm hoping Neil Ramirez can return to not his old form because he was unbelievably dominant, but somewhere close to it. Do the Cubs want to make a move? There were reports throughout the offseason that they may trade for a pitcher. And Quite frankly, I'm glad that they didn't, because that means that they would have had to give up. Well, they did. They got Adam Warren, but you know what I mean? Besides him, a top of the rotation starter. They would have had to give up Jorge Soler and Javier Baez, maybe even both of them, for a top rotation starter like Danny Salazar, Carlos Carrasco, Tyson Ross, Alex Cobb even. So at that, I'm happy that they didn't. But at the same time, if they were to make a move, I would expect them to make it in the bullpen, and it would probably be in the form of a late inning reliever, maybe like a Brad Boxberger or something like that. Or Jake McGee, you know. I could take some Jake McGee in my Cubs life, absolutely. So the Cubs are in a great spot, and honestly, I don't peg them to make any type of move until the deadline, until they really assess their needs at whatever position that they need to assess. Because right now, they're set. Hector Rondon's slated as the closer for now. Pedro Strop, the 8th inning guy. Absolutely. Absolutely. This Cubs team is the best Cubs team I've ever seen. Better than 03. They weren't even slated to be good in 03. They just made a crazy run at the end of the season. We don't have to talk about 03 because we know how that ended. 2007, 87 wins. That was good. That is a very, very solid team then. But they're better this year. 2008, probably the second best team I've ever seen them have. Yeah, they're better than them. This team is stacked everywhere, and this team is going to have a lot of success this year, and it's fantastic. I cannot wait for this summer of Cubs baseball.